What's up,
What's
Tony?
what's up, my brother? Welcome back. We were off last week. Let's do some updates this week, okay?
Sir, man, let's get it going,
Okay.
man, so we can keep people from waiting. Look, if you're
Okay.
listening, hit that subscribe button, that like button, so we can get we can get all the hits, man. All right.
This
What's
that
good, fam? Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What's good, family? Welcome back to Gents Making Sense, where we break down the stories shaping our communities, our politics, and our future without the noise, without the spin, and always with respect for the people living through these headlines. Today, we're bringing you two major updates. First, President Trump is doubling down on the Save America Act, a voting bill he's treating like the centerpiece of his entire legislative agenda. Second, a Texas courtroom has delivered a 35-year sentence in the Carmelo Anthony murder case, a tragedy that's been circulating across social media for months. Two different stories, two different takes. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's get into it. We've already covered these stories once. We just want to give you an update on these stories and everything. Let's start in Washington because President Trump has made one thing very clear. The Save America Act, the Safeguard America Voter Eligibility Act, is his top priority, not one of his priority, the priority. And he's proven it with his actions.
Yeah, this isn't just a bill he supports. This is a bill he's willing to hold everything else hostage for.
Let's break down what's actually happening. One, what the Save Act is. The Save America Act would require voters to provide documentary proof of citizenship, things like birth certificate, passport, or other official documents before being allowed to register or vote itself.
Just stupid, by the way, but okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, to be clear, federal law already requires voters to be citizens. That's been the rule. But the SAVE Act adds a new layer. You have to prove it with paperwork.
And that's where critics say that this could block eligible voters, especially folks who don't have easy access to those documents. Think older voters, low income voters, people born in rural hospitals that didn't keep great records, or folks who lost documents in moves, fires, and natural disasters.
Exactly. I mean, what is this? Germany, Russia? There's no requirement in the United States that you carry identification, none. You don't have to carry any ID. There's no law, there's no state in the union that requires that you carry identification. So if you want this to be a so-called vote safe or whatever type act, then federal government provide identifications to everybody in this country.
Yeah.
So supporters say it's about election security. Opponents say it's about voter suppression. We're not here to tell you what to think, just laying out the facts so you can make sense of it.
Two, Trump's legislative standoff. Here's where things get wild. Trump is prioritizing the SAVE Act over almost everything else Congress is trying to move. He canceled a bipartisan housing bill signing ceremony, a bill with broad support, calling it a yawn compared to the SAVE Act.
It's also threatening to block unrelated legislation, including surveillance, authority renewal, unless Congress moves the SAVE Act.
And that housing bill is becoming law without his signature. That's rare. It has already become law without his signature. That's rare. Presidents usually sign bills they support. Trump is refusing to sign it as a protest, basically saying, if it's not the SAVE Act, I'm not interested. Pitiful.
Exactly, which is standard for him and Republicans, which is hostage-taking government. Get nothing accomplished, just hold everybody hostage so they can get their pet projects done. This is
Exactly.
political leverage. He's using one bill to pressure Congress on another. Whether you agree or disagree, it's a bold and, in a lot of cases, illegal move.
Why this matters. This isn't just about voting rules. It's about priorities. When a president says one bill matters more than housing, more than surveillance authority, more than bipartisan wins, that tells you where the administration energy is going.
It also tells you what the next few months in Washington might look like. Gridlock, pressure, campaigns, and a lot of messaging around election integrity. In my opinion, that's good. Now we don't have to deal with that ridiculous America 250 flop that this president and the Republicans try to put on over the 4th of July holiday.
What happened with that? I've never
Man, that
seen
was a
something go to
clown show.
I've never seen
I live
anything go
here,
to the
man.
wayside so fast. But, I mean,
Listen, I
we don't
live
even
here, man.
remember it.
What nobody going down there? First of all, it was 110 degrees. Okay. And then secondly, what are we celebrating? What are we celebrating? I mean, you got a president who alienates 2/3 of the country and what he says and what he does. And then you got the hillbillies coming from West Virginia and all the Trump states on horseback, riding into the mall area.
Crazy.
I mean, it was ridiculous, absolutely
Crazy.
ridiculous, which is standard practice for Donald Trump and his, crooks.
I tell you one thing, it wasn't memorable.
No, the whole world
It
was
wasn't
laughing at us,
memorable.
man.
Yeah.
Just like his military parade with creaking tanks rolling down Constitution Avenue, right? And his, and having the WrestleMania with a bunch of grown men in pantyhose on the White House lawn, wrestling each other.
Still, none of it memorable. I don't think nobody has thought about it since it's been over at all.
No, it's an embarrassment, man. I mean, even the Europeans, our allies for hundreds of years, are backing away from this clown.
Exactly. I don't know what to say, man.
Yeah.
Okay, and look, we always encourage y'all to check multiple sources, especially when it comes to politics. Make sure you're getting information from the places you trust.
Yeah, and that means not a state-run news Fox.
Yeah,
That we know that they lie like it rains outside. So,
yeah,
find something that's reputable, something that you can research what they talk about. Stop listening to opinionated shows all the time and watch actual news and read actual news.
yeah.
So, in closing, so that's where things stand. The SAVE Act is front and center, and Trump is making sure everyone knows it.
We'll keep watching our Congress response and how states react and what this means for voters heading into the next election cycle. But for now, before we shift to the next story, we're going to talk a little bit. I would like to say a little bit about the Save America Act. I think somebody on TV today, and I can't remember who it was. It was, golly, what is her name? She's on CNN at 6 o'clock in the morning, black host, and I can't think
Abby
of her name.
Phillips?
No, no, she's in the morning. Abby Phillips is at night. She's in the morning. I'll get her name for you. But she said it best. She says, "I'm just gonna break down the I'm just gonna break down the America Act, and in its simplest form. The ID that you use to get on an airplane would not be cannot be used for voting alone. It has to have another document with it for it to be used. The second thing is you would have to go out and get another form of ID, birth certificate, passport. Don't too many people in America have passports, and the ones that do have it, most of the time they can't even find it. So, like you said, if they're going to require people to have ID to do certain things, then they need to pay for it because voting is a right of every American citizen. And when you put a requirement on that right, you got to be willing to pay for it and tell them where to go get it and everything. You know? That's the way I feel about it personally and everything. So I don't understand how this is gonna work. If you just say you gotta have your driver's license when you go vote, like we do now, that's good. You gotta have your driver's license to vote. And if you're not registered, it'll show that you're not registered. You do a provisional ballot and you move on. You know what I'm saying? We got all the safeguards in place that we need. This is a fix for a problem that don't exist to me. That's my little 2 cents about it.
No, I agree with you 100%, but it's worse than that. It's that Republicans don't have a platform. They don't have anything that's going to help the country grow. If they don't have anything that's going to help the country be better. So let's limit who can vote. It's no different than when Lincoln and Jefferson and Washington were all running for president. There's only a certain segment of the country to vote. And most people in the United States don't understand our history. All Americans never voted. You had to own land and you had to be a white man. And then after that, you had to have money in order to vote. It wasn't the whole country. They didn't vote on presidents when this country first started. It was a certain segment of the population that were able to control who the politicians were. And that's what Donald Trump and Republicans want to get back to. They want certain people to be able to vote. We used to have here in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where I live, where you used to have voting cards and used to take your driver's license or whatever form of identification that they required for you to register, and then they would send you a voting card. And you would go into the voting booth, you would show them your card. It's already been validated by people on the back end, and you would use your voting card every election. Why they changed that to say all of a sudden you have to have a driver's license or some type of identification? Well, the reason they did that is because in order to have a driver's license, you have to get that renewed every so often, right? You have to get identification renewed every so often. So they want to make it harder for people who just have a driver's license who may not be able to make it to the DMV and get their driver's license renewed. Well, if you don't get it renewed, then you can't vote, as opposed to just having that voter card, which had been verified that you were legitimate, and you could take that in to vote. So it's just to put another impediment in front of people they don't want to vote because they don't vote for them and make it harder for them to vote. Donald Trump himself voted through mail. He didn't fly down to Florida and
Ridiculous.
go and vote. He
Yeah.
voted by mail. But
But he
he's
don't
trying to
want
get rid
nobody
of it
else
for
to
all
vote.
the other people in the country. But he should be able to do it himself, or people like him, like Speaker Johnson and some of the Republicans, in the country.
Yeah.
So it's all a play to take us back to where a certain segment of people get the opportunity to control how you live your life, what your life is going to be like, what you can afford and what you can't afford. And those are the rich people. And in a lot of cases, and when you talk about Trump's administration, are rich white men. That's who they want to be able to control what happens in the United States.
Yep, there you go. That's it in a nutshell. And the other part of all this that we've been talking about is I agree with you. You said it many times in the past. If we want to make voting easier and probably make it more efficient, you should make it a holiday, you know? You won't have to have early voting. Just think, you wouldn't have to have early voting if the day of the primary, I mean not the primary, but the general election would be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You got 3 days to vote. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All 3 of those days are non-working days. You make them non-working days. You as a company, you could rotate who goes on what days or whatever. That way all your people don't have to be off at one day. You don't have to close down your shop. You can say, 1/3 of y'all go on Friday, the other third goes on Saturday, the other third goes on something like that. Let's start thinking outside the box on voting and stuff, and stop thinking it's got to be held on Tuesday. It's got to be from 7 to 7 or whatever time they have it. We got to have primaries 90 days before the general election. Let's start thinking outside the box on voting. If we're going to change it, it's just like voting is like immigration. Nobody wants to sit down and do the work of coming up with comprehensive immigration law. Nobody wants to sit down and do the work on having comprehensive voting rights laws. They want to piecemeal it. They want to see what might happen. But if you get these men and women in Congress, the Senate, the people we pay to solve these type problems, if you could get them to sit down together for any amount of time and say, let's think outside the box on voting. Let's make voting a holiday. Let if we want to get rid of all these different states with different rules and different how many early voting days people got, just make 3 days for voting, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. You know? That's my
Here's the
opinion.
thing. I mean, we talked about this last week. Is I would say I would say make it. Why do we have to vote one day, even if it's a holiday?
Yeah.
Why not do voting from Monday to Monday?
Okay. Yeah.
The new president who wins the election doesn't take office until January the 20th. So why do we have to know January the 5th or at the latest early morning November 5th or early morning November 6th, who the president is? Well, the reason that we do is because our media is greedy. They want to make money, so they run all these shows about the election. They want eyes to turn on the TV and watch it, for Kornacki and all these ridiculous idiots that stand up there counting numbers and trying to guess who wins the election. When the rest of the world goes out and votes, nobody worries about it until 4 or 5 days, maybe a week later, when they come back and say, so and so won the presidency or so and so has been reelected. We're the only country in the world that has a 2 to 3 day but
Window?
show on the media about the election. And it's because corporate America wants to make money. They're the ones that are fighting, allowing people to vote for 5 or 6 days. And then, even if you don't want to do that, let's say we do it on the weekend. Perfect example. Perfect example. But I'm going to tell you who's going to fight that. You know who's going to fight that?
Who's gonna fight it?
Malls,
Yeah.
stores,
Yeah.
people that make money off us on the weekend. All the people that make money off us on the weekend, their lobbyists are going to go and say, let's not do that because that's going to be the weekend that we lose the most amount of money. You got to always follow the money, man. Everything in the United States is a grift. If a company can make money or a company loses money, they're going to do everything they can to prevent you from doing that, which is the most important thing that we have going on in this country, which is voting for your representation.
Yep.
So it's all a grift. It's all a grift. If they really wanted to control what was going on in the voting booths, then they would open it up so that the large majority of Americans have the opportunity to go and vote and put somebody in office if they want in office. So
So
I'll let it go
so
with that.
yeah, so that's what we do. We sit here and we put this stuff out in front of you. We put our ideas out in front of how we see our lived experiences. We put it out in front of you and let you decide. We're not for the people that make comments on our site and stuff and say we doing this and we doing this and we causing this and we causing that. We're just trying to give you facts as we see them and putting it out there, and we can discuss it like you know like smart human individuals instead of calling people names. So y'all can continue to do that, but we're going to continue to put good information out here, and we try to put as many facts out here as we can.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean,
Yeah.
there are people out there, man, that just want to argue, and I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to talk to you
Yeah.
about facts, and we're going to have a legitimate adult conversation because we are men. I'm not going to argue with you. And people
Yeah.
that make comments and making jokes and talking about the way somebody talks or the way somebody looks. I mean, what are we, children? No one's in high
Hmm.
school here. We're all adults. So,
Hmm.
yes, please continue with the comments, legitimate comments. We're not going to
Yeah.
argue. We're just going to delete your comment and move on to the next people. It's not going to be a conversation with a bunch of basement dwellers or, couch patriots, which I always like to call, all these
Some of them are
so-called,
bots too. We
right.
probably some of
Well,
them are
some of them
bots.
are bots, and then some of them are just
Hmm.
people, couch patriots, dudes that, oh, I'm patriotic, right? But when you had the opportunity to join the military and go fight for something, you cowered in your mom's basement, or you said,
Hmm.
I'm going to school. I'd rather go get my education and join the military. So just knock it off. Stop. So
Yeah.
cool.
That's what I say too. Okay, so we're gonna move on. We're gonna shift to a different story. We're gonna go back and update the Carmelo Anthony story as best as possible we can. So with this story, now we move to Texas, where a tragic case that's been circulating online for months has reached a major turning point. Carmelo Anthony, a 19-year-old, not Carmelo Anthony of the NBA legend, has been sentenced to 35 years in prison for the fatal stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet. Let's walk through what happened and how the courtroom arrived at their outcome. First, the incident itself.
This goes back to a confrontation at a 2025 track. Witnesses say tensions escalated between Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf, leading to a physical altercation. During that confrontation, Anthony stabbed Metcalf, who later died from his injuries.
Yeah, sad thing. We didn't want to see none of that happen. But Anthony claimed self-defense. He said he feared for his life, but the jury didn't accept that argument. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the trial itself. The trial was emotional. Both families were present. The prosecution argued that Anthony escalated the conflict and used deadly force unnecessarily.
The defense tried to show that Anthony was overwhelmed, scared, and reaching to what he perceived as a threat. But again, the jury didn't buy it.
Yeah. And when the verdict came down, the sentence was heavy, 35 years. This wasn't just a legal moment, it was a human one. So family statements, let's look into those, okay?
Yeah. Austin Metcalf's father said grief is rage, pure, unfiltered rage. His mother said, I've been sentenced to life without my son. Right.
Yeah, those are hard words to listen to. That's their truth. We could talk about that and see exactly what they're trying to say. But you know, it is what it is. Those words hit hard because beyond the courtroom, beyond the headline, this is a story about two families whose lives will never be the same. Let's talk about the social media reaction because that's a big in America today.
Now, online, the case took on a life of its own. Some people tried to frame it in racial terms, even though both legal teams said race was not a factor in the incident.
I wonder how they said that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I'm giving that comment the side eye.
Okay. I don't blame. It's a reminder of how fast narratives can spread and how easily a tragedy can get distorted when people jump to conclusion without facts. Wow. So, a young man is gone, another young man will spend decades in prison, and two families will carry this pain long after the news cycle move on.
We'll keep following any appeals or updates, but for now, this chapter of the case is closed, unfortunately.
Okay, let's talk about it a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah,
the more we look at this case, the more I look at the case, the more I see where these two young men, they're so young, they haven't even had the time in their life. They probably don't know nothing about conflict management. They don't know how to react in a situation like they found themselves in. One person, Carmelo Anthony, it probably went through the part of and I don't know if he's been through flight or fight. You know, he in that moment or that second, do I fight or do I run? And once you make that decision, sometimes you can't go back. And that in itself is a heat of the moment decision. That's why I thought they could go to the other sentencing tool they had, which is similar to a compassion tool or something, where they're basically saying in the heat of the moment, this is what this young man did. It ain't his regular thought pattern, it's the heat of the moment. And they could have gave him maybe 10 to 15 years instead of the 35 years they gave him. But these two young men were very young, and I don't even think they knew what conflict resolution was.
I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna be a little bit more real. I think from
Yeah,
my perspective is
go
that
ahead.
you know I don't know what happened, but I do know that you had two young folks or two men, young men, who
Mhm.
were fighting with each other. And as I've always said on this podcast since almost 3 years of us talking, is when it's violence against black people, every excuse in the book is given to the perpetrator. Every excuse, every reason for that individual to do what they did to that African American person and defend it. The news defends it. People on television defend it. A lot of these white supremacists offend it. Defend it. Every excuse is given to that person. They may have something's mentally wrong with them. They come from a bad family. They had a bad day. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed to kill somebody who's black. But when it's the other way around and a black person is protecting themselves or defending themselves, all of a sudden he's a monster. All of a sudden he's a killer. All of a sudden he's a murderer without any consideration of the fact that maybe he woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Maybe he has mental issues. Maybe he was defending himself. And that's the problem that I have with the American justice system. You had a guy in, I want to say maybe Tennessee, it might have been Georgia, a few weeks ago that rolled up on a family reunion and started firing on the people in the family reunion. You had women, children, and men out there. Guy takes an arm on him. Luckily, a couple of the brothers there were former military and were legally armed, fired back and hit the guy.
Mm-hmm.
He gets arrested. He goes to court. The judge gives him a $5,000 bond.
Mm-hmm.
$5,000. And this guy shoots at a whole bunch of family members at a family reunion. They're not bothering
Right.
anybody. They're just at a family reunion in the park. Guy comes through, shoots up the place, gets hurt, and the judge gives him a $5,000 bond. You had the two dudes in Georgia, the Aubrey case, that killed the dude who was out on the jog,
Yeah.
and they
Yep.
tried everything in the book to let those hillbillies off.
Yep. Yep.
But here in
Remember that case?
Texas, right here in Texas, you got it's coming out now with thank goodness that Carmelo Anthony has a better legal team. That some of the witnesses lie, flat out lie
Mm-hmm.
about
Yep.
him. And now that's coming out. You had it coming out that the judge had a personal relationship, not personal, but a relationship with the father and the prosecutor.
Wow.
And then you had the father who, the second that he gets an opportunity to go out and talk to the media, where does he go run to? He runs the state-run news, Fox, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the guy who, calling us thugs, right? And there was a reason why the judge had a, what's it called when he doesn't allow people to talk during the court case, when the judge has like essentially he doesn't allow the prosecutor or the defense or anybody associated with them or the defendant or prosecutor, no one can talk. Whatever
Mm-hmm.
that is that the judge does. There was a reason why he did that.
Gag
Because he
order.
knew,
Gag order.
right,
Gag order.
he puts a gag order on everything that's involved in that case. Well, I know why he did it, because we knew this father was going to go off and say something that he wasn't supposed to say and prejudice a jury. Not to mention the part of Texas that it took place in, we know has a history of racism, a history of white supremacy. So it just goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that it's always different rules when it comes to African Americans when we defend ourselves or we do something that might be egregious. We never get the same grace that they give everybody else. I mean, how many mass shootings have we had this year that were typically by people of the Caucasian persuasion? And what do we get on TV every time? Well, he's got a history of mental illness, or he was having a bad day. His girlfriend, didn't have sex with him last night. Every excuse they can give somebody in the world for going out and buying a mass unaliving piece of tool and going and shooting 25 people. But
Gotcha.
Carmelo Anthony doesn't get that same grace when it comes to the media or when it comes to these so-called experts that are talking. So I hope that his team gets him another trial. They move it out of Frisco, Texas, because he's not going to get a fair trial in Frisco, Texas. And he has somebody on his jury that shares his reflection and understands his experiences.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, good. Okay, so we're gonna kind of sum all this up. That's our update for today. 2 major stories, 2 different impacts, and a lot for all of us to think about.
As always, stay informed, stay grounded, stay connected to your people, and stay woke.
And before I close it out, do you have anything on another note or anything?
Yeah, really quick, another case similar to the Carmelo Anthony case, similar meaning a young black boy is dead. The other case where he was out with a bunch of his friends, a bunch of, one of his white friends, and he was the only black one out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, though he died. They left him on the island, he died. They took his phone. They didn't tell his parents they had his phone. They deleted all of their text messages. I mean, what does that tell you? I mean, if that was a white kid with a bunch of black kids and they did that, you think the black kids would be out on bond? No, they would
Right.
be arrested. At the very least arrested because
They haven't
of
even been
suspicion.
arrested. They ain't got no bond because they
They
ain't been
arrested one
arrested.
person.
They did?
You had the sheriff come out a day or two afterwards and say, don't worry about folks, nothing to see here. Turn your back, to go on away. There's nothing to see here. This is the sheriff.
Oh,
No investigation, no legitimate investigation. Just, hey,
mhm,
nothing to see here, guys. Let's move on. That's what I'm talking about when it comes to having a legitimate legal system in this
mhm.
country, and we do not have that now.
We
When
don't.
you have a country that can take, going back to Carmelo Anthony case, when you have a country that can eliminate jurors that look like the defendant, because you're supposed to get
Mhm.
a
Jury of your
court, supposed to get
peers.
jurors that are your peers,
Mhm.
and you can exclude them without any justification and have a jury of a bunch of people who do not look like the defendant, have no experiences that the defendant has, and judge them. That tells you that the legal system is not just rigged, but it's corrupt. And this is
Gotcha.
another case where you have a sheriff who does not have all of the information, comes out on national television and said there's nothing to see without doing any investigation. And now they're finding out that they kept his phone, right? They didn't report that he didn't come back, right? They started deleting texts on their own phone. Nobody does that unless you got something to hide. So that's
I
my
agree. Yeah, I
something else.
agree.
Yep.
That's a good one there, and, it's been on social media, for a long time, and this time they got Ben Crump on as one of the best lawyers around, so we'll see what happens with this case. We'll keep you up to date on that.
And can I say one more thing?
Mhm,
I just want to say one more thing. And you know, of course, I got a little bit of flack on here from in the comment section, but I don't care. I'm going to say it again. This is why I arm myself, and this is why I
mhm.
tell people who share my reflection that you need to arm yourself, because there are a lot of people out there who do not want to see you see the next day, and if they get in a situation where they have you alone or they have you in a situation where you're vulnerable, the majority of them are going to take advantage of you, and they are going to try to hurt you. So you need to be armed and you need to defend yourself until the last breath. I will never go against somebody who is defending themselves against aggression. I
Gotcha.
will never, ever go against somebody defending themselves against aggression. And we have seen it over the last 2 years since this clown has been in office, who has basically opened up the floodgates for being racist in this country and being part of a white supremacist group where people think they can say and do anything to you and you're just supposed to accept it.
Gotcha.
So arm yourself, people, and defend yourself. You can always go to court and defend what you did, but if they take your life, you can't defend yourself anymore. So take theirs first if need be, and then go to court and defend yourself.
Gotcha. Okay. So you heard it from Suleiman himself, and he's not holding back as we do on this podcast. We try not to hold back. We say what we feel because it's our opinion, not yours. On another note, I'm gonna kind of try to support some black-owned business. I haven't did this in a little while. One of them is Supplement. That's one with the water bottles. It's an all-black company. Water bottles. I have one. I have two, matter of fact. Power in Black is another one. This is a company that makes T-shirts and everything with a lot of different sayings on it and everything. It's very nice little T-shirt that is inexpensive and everything. So the website is right there, powerinblack.com. Actively Black is another one that we talk about up here sometime that have active gear, sports gear. Primary competition is Adidas, Nike, and Under Armour. Try to look at some of those sites if you want to. They don't pay us nothing for this. I just want to put it out there. Okay? Well,
Now, let
go
me say
ahead.
one more thing on.
Mhm.
So I know, some of my brothers out there that, like to do the adult beverage thing. There's if you've been watching any of the news, there was a bourbon, I think it was a bourbon company called Uncle
Yeah, we were
Ernest.
talking about that in our group
Yeah, I think
chat
it's called
today.
that. Uncle, I could be wrong, but nevertheless, you should know that that company is no longer owned by that family. You should know that that company is owned by somebody else outside of that family. So when you are looking to buy liquor, people who were supporting it because it was that African American male that didn't get the credit for basically making Jack Daniels, and they broke off, and the family members of that man bought that company and were selling it. They don't own it anymore. It's been sold. So you need to understand that it's not his family when you go and buy that because what they're going to do is try to use his name and our image to get people who share his reflection to buy that bourbon. But you should know
What's
that it is not owned by that man's family anymore.
what
That has
is it
been
called?
sold.
Is it
Huh?
called Uncle Nearest?
Uncle Nears. I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
said Uncle Ernest. It's called
yeah,
Uncle
Uncle
Nears.
Nearest. Yeah, yeah.
And it used to be owned by the family of that man.
Mhm.
It is not anymore. And so you should know that before you go and purchase it. If you like the alcohol, fine, go ahead and do it. If you think it's a good drink, go ahead and buy it. But do not go and purchase that because you think it's a black owned company. It is not.
Yeah, it's in receivership now. She founded the company.
Yeah, there was some internal struggles and something going
Mhm.
on amongst the
Yeah,
family, which happens a
exactly.
lot. And
Yep,
they end up selling it. I just want to
yep.
make sure that people are not being fooled, like corporate America always does, particularly when it comes to us. They love our culture. They love, things that we do, and they want to use that to sell their product. But they're not putting anything back into our communities. They're not doing anything for our people. You just need to be careful who you spend your money with.
Gotcha. Okay then. Good. Thank y'all once again. We'll be back soon with more conversation that makes sense from Gents making sense for us, for our communities, and for the future we're building together. Okay? Peace. See y'all
This
soon.
is everybody. See you next week.
Okie dokie.